Jazakallah khair, Imam Mahdi. Next we have Dr. Farjana Khan for How Do We Become the Just Right Family. She is an educator, she has a PhD in clinical psychology, is the author of 4 books, and the CEO of Domestic Violence Incorporated. Assalamu alaikum. All right, so Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor, alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me the ability to relay the right message to help all our families and the ummah as a whole, inshallah. Today I am going to talk about, let me just get this set up right. Today I'm going to be speaking about how to become the just right family. How to become the just right family. This will help newer families, inshallah, and all our families as a whole. Firstly, I want to start out by painting a picture, okay? I want you to really picture this. Here, for the Just Right family, this is what a Just Right family looks like. The father comes home, the mother, the children greet him, they're excited to see him. They all eat dinner together, they talk about their day, they pray, they bake together, they say their good nights, and they say their I love yous. There is a sense of comfort and ease as the underlying tone of this household, inshallah. Everyone is happy. Sounds great, right? But the reality is, that's rarely the case. This often is not a reality in a lot of Muslim families. On the opposite end, there's another family, and I want you to picture this. The dad is working all the time. The mom is busy with house chores, marital strife, in-laws, her own parents, her own siblings. The parents are always arguing. The children are ignored in the background. The underlying tone of this household is anger, resentment, passive behavior. Here, some children stop feeling altogether, sadly. So why is strong family relations important? Why is strong family relations important? Why is it important to have the just right family? We need to understand this. Research indicates strong family relations help children develop self-esteem, resist peer pressure, and act responsibly when making decisions about societal struggles. Basically, strong family relations is the cornerstone of our children's lifelong well-being. It is the cornerstone of our children's lifelong well-being. As parents, as families, we need to understand this and provide them with a healthy family, inshallah. So where do we start? Let's identify 3 major obstacles that impede strong family relations. Number 1, marital strife. Number 2, negative cultural programming or negative cultural influences. Number 3, lack of awareness and involvement in our children's lives. Marital strife. Here, parents are always arguing. Parent arguments create unrest in the home. Due to this, children lack attention, the attention that they need to develop properly. Children start to seek love and attention in the wrong places. Cultural issues. This is very common in Muslim families. Often the culture is prioritized over the religion and having a healthy family. The household here is filled with gossip, shame, guilt, competitiveness, and mixed up priorities. Here the family is more concerned about appeasing the gossipers rather than getting help for their family, and it's really sad. It's really sad. But it is very common in a lot of Muslim families, unfortunately. Lack of attention and involvement. Here, the caretakers are very busy work schedules. Parents are unable to balance chores, prayers, and quality time with their kids. Parents are consumed by siblings, marital strife, work demands, in-laws, and older parental obligations. Sadly, these other priorities consume time and attention away from the children. So what happens? What happens to these family members as a result? Children begin to seek escape and attention elsewhere. Basically, they are left susceptible to media, peers, etc. Next, children have minimal guidance and follow-up. The world, basically the whole world, starts forming their character. Next, no attention is given to the spouse. As we know, it's very important. Now the core foundation becomes rocky. Spouses drift apart. The family starts to fall apart. Anger, resentment, and passive behavior become the family members' defense mechanisms and forms of communication. So how do we become the just right family? How do we become the just right family? According to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. A man is the guardian of his family and he is responsible for them. A woman is the guardian of her husband's home and his children, and she is responsible for them. No doubt, every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. We are the shepherds. We are responsible for our families. In an ayah from the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the condition of people until they change what is in themselves. I'll say that again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the condition of people until they change what is in themselves. So, we have to change our mindsets to become the just right family. We have to own our marriages, own our families, take responsibility for our children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to be active individuals, not passive. We have to take action. So let's solve this. Marital strife. Fix your marriages. Show love and affection. Have planned time with your spouse. For newer couples, build your marriages. This will create an inviting home for your children. Seek help with marital therapy if necessary. Cultural issues. Get knowledge about real Islam versus cultural Islam. They are two distinct entities. Don't appease shame and guilt at the expense of your family. Don't sweep problems under the rug due to shame. Talk about problems. So basically, forget about what people are going to say. This is very common in a lot of Muslim families. I'm going to say this in Urdu for all the Urdu speakers. Stop pleasing the gossipers. Log kya kenge? Stop, don't worry about them. In Bangla, manush ki bolbe. Who cares? Forget about them. Please, get the help if necessary. We're here to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's our priority. Alhamdulillah. Lack of attention and involvement. Simple. You have to pay attention to your children. Children developmentally crave to be noticed. Spend time with them. Play with your children. Talk to them. Validate their feelings. Know their world. Know their likes. Know their dislikes. Know current world trends so you can stay connected to them. Teach them ways to process and express their emotions properly. No one is teaching this to them. Underneath of it all, it starts with you. Your mental health and physical health have to come first. If you take care of yourself, you can take care of your family. If you fall apart, your family falls apart. You must prioritize yourself. So let's recap. We must address the major obstacles: marital strife, negative cultural influences, and lack of attention in order to have the just right family. Alhamdulillah. So now, I will share some concrete steps that can help your family on a daily basis. These are some fun and easy steps that will help reduce chaos in your busy lives. So this is where you take out your pencils and papers and start writing, inshallah. Or your phone, notes section. All right, so these are some practical tips. Number 1, get a family easel. Hang it up in the kitchen. Here, family members can express themselves, validate needs, You can jot down important notes, dates, grocery needs. It becomes a common area for communication. Number 2, create a family mission together. Together, identify acceptable and unacceptable behavior in the home. Rewards and consequences. Remember, discipline is a form of respect. With love and firm discipline, you show your children you care enough about them to correct their behavior. So again, get a family easel, create a family mission together. Have rules, rewards, and consequences. Number 4, a chores list. Giving chores teaches responsibility. Also here, no one person ends up with all the responsibilities. Thus, we have healthier and balanced family members. Number 5, go on fun family outings. Remember, your children are like cameras. Leave beautiful memories in their lives. Those images will echo in everything they do, inshallah. So create those beautiful memories with them. Number 6, have planned time with your children, with each child. So that means if you have a 2-year-old, you need to spend separate time with your 2-year-old and play with those monster trucks. If you have a 14-year-old daughter, this is where you need to go and do each other's hair. You have to have planned time for each child. Plan time with your spouse. This is crucial. Remember, the husband and wife, you guys are the foundation of your family. So you need to be strong and you need to prioritize your marriage, inshallah. Number 8, have media-free times. Turn your phone off. When you get home from work, have a time period where it's like 5 to 7, turn your phone off all together and be present in your household. Be present, watch yourself. Actually watch yourself to see what you're doing. Are you smiling or are you just in a robotic state? Just doing the chores and cleaning and just, okay, all right, let's go to sleep, let's have dinner. Or are you stopping and actually being present in your child's life, in your family's life? Number 9, everything in order. Keep your finances in order. Again, this is for the newer couples particularly, but everyone as a whole. Keep your finances in order, all documents in order, your house in order. This reduces the chaos and creates good energy flow in your household. Number 10, be part of a Muslim community. Go to Muslim events together. This creates a sense of belonging, which we all need. Number 11, promote family togetherness. Pray together. Maybe, I know it's not, you might not be able to do all 5 or 4, but at least make it once a day, one time where you all pray together, inshallah, maybe Maghrib or Isha, whichever it is. Have game nights. Have a gratitude jar, where you keep a jar in the house and you put in all the things, all the great events that happen in your life. And then you can share it with each other later at the end of the week. Follow up on big issues that occurred at home and in the world. Don't forget about it. It shows everyone's feelings matter. Number 12, me time. Everyone needs me time. This is where you engage in self-care, which I mentioned earlier. Family members get to self-reflect, they get to exercise, process, unwind, connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala individually. Again, creating healthier individuals, healthier family members. Last, be approachable. Create an environment in your household where lines of communication are open with all family members. Create a safe space where mistakes are allowed. Efforts are praised. Appropriate attention is given to each family member. Remember, a dysfunctional you, dysfunctional family, dysfunctional kids, dysfunctional ummah. Take control. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help build strong relations in all our families, inshallah. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Khan. Next we have Ustad AbdelRahman Rafiq. He's an instructor at the Pelham Institute and director of Roots DFW. He holds a bachelor's in education and a master's in mental health counseling, has pursued traditional Islamic studies at the Almiya level over the last decade with numerous teachers, primarily under the mentorship of Sheikh Abdul Nasser Janga.
I appreciate the clapping. I haven't done anything yet, so I'll just, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I've been having an ongoing battle with these microphones this weekend. Allah gave me a big body, and these microphones are, so if I talk like this, no one can hear me. So I gotta I call this the angry dad pose. You know what you've done. So just gonna stretch out my back. And my calves while I'm doing this. Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. I literally just texted my wife the 13 steps, and she goes, ooh, I really love these. I want to start a gratitude jar in Ramadan. So, jazakumullah khairan. Thank you for doing that, mashallah. And I think, we've all gained so much insight from Imam Rafiq, who is, as I mentioned earlier in my session, just like a pillar of community. The only reason why Muslims are able to get together and have sessions on marital bliss and refinement is because of just the work that Imam Rafiq has done. And I will say this because I know him. He and his family, both his wife as well as an incredible teacher of Islam at the Islamic school level. And when in Knoxville, when we were able to live in the same city for a few years, he was inspiring on the community level, and then there was like a community of the school that his wife, mashallah, was just like a superstar. So you have like this power couple, mashallah. You think Jay-Z and Beyonce have something, you don't know anything about So, and then having young Muslims, especially young Muslim women, go into clinical psychology and be able to fuse the world of mental health and faith, it's just essential. I mean, we're just, we're at a point right now where we're spiritually anemic in the mental health field. We don't know how to respond to things, and oftentimes we think that they're at odds when in fact they work in such harmony together. And so that was like amazing. I literally was taking notes the whole time, even though I studied mental health in my master's coursework, but it's just, the experience and the hard work really showing through. So I want to appreciate both of you guys for opening the session. May Allah reward you. The subtopic that I was given was the idea on how to address the marital phenomenon of being hurt. This is like something that no one ever wants to talk about. I don't know, how many of y'all are married again? Okay, so for those of you who are married, you might look at somebody who's not married, and one of the first things that you'll say, I remember when my wife and I were getting married, we got married, alhamdulillah, this is our 10th year, alhamdulillah, being married. I'm not that old, but we got married really young, so I was one of the few who was able to break through, alhamdulillah. So I'm 30 years old, 10th year this summer, inshallah. And I remember 10 years ago, as a 20-year-old, just being like, I want to get married. And I remember some of my older friends who were married were like, man, you think marriage is all this and that, but there's arguments and there's that, you think it's all fun and games? And I was like, yeah, it sounds pretty fun. You marry like someone that you like, best friends, like hang out, eat waffles, like what's wrong? I don't understand. And they're like, it's not that easy. And I will say this, I do think that sometimes misery loves company, and so people who are going through marital struggles sometimes, in the same way that single people idealize marriage, I think sometimes couples who are struggling, they give a bit of a doom and gloom scenario when it comes to marriage, and both of them are inaccurate. The reality is that marriage is the best thing that you can do for yourself as a person, if Allah wills it for you, and at the right time. However, that's not to say that things that are beneficial are always easy. Hajj, for example. Hajj is something that's mandatory, it's incredibly beneficial, it's life-changing, but Hajj, Imam Rafiq, is not easy. Giving sadaqah is beneficial, but man, pulling that cash out of your wallet and putting it in a box and not buying what you want for yourself, it's not always easy. Fajr is incredibly beneficial for all of us. But getting up in the morning when you've had a late night, especially with my son Musa, who prays Qiyam at 3 in the morning. He doesn't even have wudu when he's praying. I don't know what he's doing. He's sitting there in a dirty diaper. I'm like, it doesn't count. Waking up for Fajr, beneficial but incredibly difficult. So I don't want us to have to choose, whether or not we view something as being just ultimately beneficial, the best thing ever, and then, it won't be challenging. I think that the realistic perspective from an Islamic paradigm is that we understand that marriage is beautiful, as the Prophet ﷺ says. It is a completion of one's deen, right, of one's practice of religion. And at the same time, there are some challenges, right? And going into it with that realistic understanding will help you when you experience the highs and when you experience the challenges. And so understanding first from the get-go that marriage is basically the joining of two individuals, two people who have had unique experiences, who have grown in ways sometimes that are similar, but in ways sometimes that are very different. And having to put those two people together in close proximity and having to negotiate and navigate sometimes the smooth and choppy waters that comes with that. If you walk into it with that understanding, then subhanAllah, the barakah that Allah places into that relationship, even the challenging times themselves become beneficial. And that's like the first thing we have to understand, is that not all challenges are bad, right? Like you may have an argument, and actually it's very much the case that the result of the argument is that you grow closer to one another. And for married couples, anyone ever gone through that? It's like a weird moment where you have to stop being angry, right? So my wife and I one time we argued, and literally all of our arguments, they're really so I'm half Egyptian, so by definition that means I'm incredibly stubborn, okay? If I was full Egyptian, I wouldn't even be here right now, right? I'd be so stubborn. I'm like, no, right? I'm gonna get donuts. And then my wife is Bengali, which also low-key mad stubborn, okay? Bengali people. You think they're just this really sweet, docile group of people? MashaAllah, our flag is green and red. MashaAllah, you think that everything's cool, and then you get into the family and you're like, wow, y'all are really strong-headed people, for better and for worse. So my wife and I, two strong-headed individuals, amazing, right? Fireworks. And so there are times when we really, really have disagreements about things, and neither person is right or wrong, by the way. It's just a matter of opinion, it's a matter of preference. And at the end of that argument, we actually feel closer than we did even the day before when everything was all good, right? That's what happens when you come into it with what's called ikhlas in the Arabic language, sincerity, right? So the first step, my wife, I actually texted her and I asked her, I said, hey, I have this talk on how to heal in marriages. And I could obviously present it from an academic perspective or whatever, but how would you think about this? And she was actually brought up some of the growth that she and I have had as a couple, alhamdulillah, over the past 10 years. And this is one of the things she said. She said that when you come into something, when you come into a marriage with sincerity, even those arguments, those fights, those disagreements, they end up making you stronger as a couple. And the only way that you can get to a point is that it can't be about me, it has to be about us. You have to literally view your life beyond self-care, which is sustenance, right, sustainable. Beyond self-care, it then has to become a matter of keeping the family sustained as well. The couple, first, and then the family, right? Sheikh Abdul Nasser has one of my favorite lines ever. When Musa was, when Allah blessed us with a son, with Musa, Sheikh Abdul Nasser came over my house and, he gave Musa some gifts and stuff, and he pulled me aside and he said, spend time with your wife. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, the best parents are a couple who love each other. And he goes, it doesn't matter if Musa goes to sleep at 9 or 10 or 11. He goes, you guys need at least half an hour to just watch Netflix or eat ice cream or both, right? He was you just need time together. And so when you understand that you are functioning as part of a unit, it helps you grow together as a unit. And oftentimes, correct me if I'm wrong, we have obviously the doctor here and Imam here, a lot of times marital strife, beyond just being about sort of the lack of rahmah, is also sometimes the lack of focus on what it means to be part of a unit, right? Abu Dhar, subhanAllah, he has, not Abu Dhar, Abu Darda, I apologize. He has a beautiful statement one time where he saw two animals that were walking together. Oh, mashallah, I didn't know you were right here. The superstar, right? The other part of the power couple, mashallah. So Abu Darda, he sees two animals, and they were two bulls, and it's kind of hard to explain, but there was like a collar that they would wear for both of the bulls to create like a machine. So instead of having an engine, you'd have two giant animals walking, and they would yoke them together with a collar, and that way they could pull the equipment behind them, okay? It's like instead of having it's like twin turbos, okay? So instead of having one animal, you have two. So what happens if you're connected to somebody and one of them stops? What happens to the other person? Huh? No, well, I mean, drag them, but what happens if the other part's just too heavy? It stops. So if one stops, who stops? Both of them. Abu Darda saw this, he started crying. He saw that, he saw one of them stop to I don't know if it was itch himself or rest or whatever, and the other one had to stop. He started crying. He goes, this is how a relationship should be. He says brotherhood, marriage, etc. This is how it should be. That when one stops, the other one stops. And when one's ready to go, the other one goes. You see how important that is? And subhanAllah, even understanding that your spouse is ready to do such a thing provides sometimes just love between you, where you don't even need to stop, but knowing that they would stop if you stopped is beneficial to you as an individual. So the first thing you have to have ultimately is viewing yourself as a unit. The hurt cannot heal unless you feel like you're on the same page. One of the biggest roadblocks to forgiveness is when there's a wall between the two of us or the two of you, and you feel like the person just doesn't understand or is not aligned with you on what the purpose of your relationship even is. But once that purpose is set, that our goal as a couple is to, number one, obviously first and foremost, please Allah, our Creator, and to obviously grow together, build a family, etc., then the hurt is allowed to heal. It's almost like a gateway that's blocked until that mission statement is set forward. Okay? Some of the other things she said I want to share with you, because everyone's nodding their head, so I clearly suck at giving speeches, so I'm just going to let her do this one. Okay? Is she said that one of the things, and this is stuff that's really good, inshallah, one of the things that helps you in overcoming this hurt, because what happens when you get hurt? What do you start to think about? Be honest, everybody. When you get hurt, when someone hurts you, let's say your spouse says something that's really mean, what do you start to think about? I don't want to look at married couples because it's kind of awkward. All married couples, I'm like, what do you think? Slowly, he lets go of the hand. No. That marriage doesn't ruin my marriage. It's like, no, it's not going to Allah protect us. What happens when there's what do you start to think about? So let's say, for example, that you spend a long day working on something. Let's say the husband spends a long day cooking. Right? The husband's like, I'm going to cook today, right? And then the wife comes home. She's like, this thing does not have enough salt in it. What do you think? By the way, a true story happened to me, right? But it didn't happen like that. I cooked and I was like, this is going to be amazing. And my wife's like, okay. ... And then I was trying to try it. And she's like, did you add salt? And I was like, yeah, what's that? What's salt? Right? So imagine what does a person feel when they're feeling hurt like that? When they've tried and they've invested, whether it's cooking, whether it's building furniture, oh, it looks like that, I think you did it wrong, right? Whether it's cleaning, whether it's doing yard work, whether it's going out and getting groceries and forgetting to, what happens when a person feels inadequate? What do they start to think about? What do they start to reflect on? Huh? Yeah, I'm unappreciated. And you start to think of the previous examples of your lack of appreciation. Yes or no? So the person says something and you're like, you always do this. And you think last week I forgot the onions and you told me. The other week I didn't weed whack and you told me. The other week I put the diaper on backwards and you told me, right? This is just, I'm just venting right now on my own personal life. It's funny. I'm just joking. Right? So you just open up and you know what happens? Imam Shafi'i actually says this. Imam Shafi'i says, how interesting is the human being that if you do 100 things right and you do one wrong, you only remember what? The one wrong, right? So you literally just flood your mind and heart with all these negative memories and you forget all the good that your relationship has brought to you. And sometimes when these couples come for counseling, I literally have to, and you might actually do this as well, I literally have to put a piece of paper down and a pen. I say, I want you to write 10 positive things about this person. And usually one of them is okay, and the other one's I I can only think of 3, right? And I'm like, that says more about you than her or him because you married a person that you can only think about 3 good things, right? Like you committed your life to this person, right? And usually it's a little bit of arrogance in the way. So the point being, the second point, how do you want to heal your hurt quickly? Don't let shaitan absolutely just inundate you and poison your mind and heart with all the negativity. Because wallahi, there is more good in your relationship than bad. There is. There's khair in it. And if there's not, if there genuinely is not, then that's why Islam does allow for marriages to be dissolved. Because sometimes there are some marriages where the good does not outweigh the bad. But I can almost say as a general rule that good definitely outweighs the bad. And so you have to think deeply about what does this person do for you? What kind of changes have they made in you? What kind of feelings do they evoke in you? What kind of happiness do they allow you to experience? You know, someone asked me the other day, what's it like to have a kid? I said, well, it's kind of like when you got married, you discover areas of your heart that you never knew existed. And then when you have a child, it's the same thing. Like you're holding this thing you've met for like 30 seconds, right? They look a little bit, you know, pink and wrinkly. And you're like crying because you love this thing. It's so weird, right? It's like the strangest thing. Like you've never thought pooping was cuter ever in your life. You know, and it's hilarious, subhanAllah. But Allah Ta'ala opens up, it's almost like He opens up a new corner of your heart you had no idea existed. So you have to reflect about these things. And you have to think deeply about, you know what, and give yourself almost like a database of like good memories and good thoughts and good ideas. This is exactly what she was talking about. When she said spending time together, build the database of those good memories. You might have an argument about something. Maybe someone forgot something or ruined something. But you know what? Think about the 1,000 times that y'all, mashallah, did stuff together and you nailed it. You got the kids ready for school in time and you had a great day. You went and visited, you went on vacation, you had a great time. Don't think about the time that this was burned or that was ruined or that broke. There's no benefit in perseverating and marinating your mind and heart in those challenges. Okay? The last thing she says, I'm literally giving you a speech my wife wrote. The last thing she said, and this is beautiful, is she says that empathy goes a long way. How many of you have ever done something and immediately after you did it, you knew that you messed up? Yeah? Okay, thank you for the 3 honest people in this audience. Everyone else says something for because you lied. Yeah. Either that or you just don't realize how wrong you are sometimes. It happens. Like, it happens when you're driving sometimes. Anyone here ever, like, accidentally went over in the other lane, someone honked at you, you're like, hey, don't honk at me, right? And then you're like, oh wait, it was my bad, right? You ever had those moments where you did something wrong and then immediately after you realize and you just feel this immense sense of guilt set in, right? In marriage, this actually can happen too. That as soon as you realize that you've messed up, you have to feel this sense of guilt and actually remember that feeling. Why? Because that feeling will give you the empathy to be able to forgive the person when you know or they know that they've messed up. So just like the time you messed up, you're driving home, you're like, I'm so in trouble, right? I'm so in trouble. I told him I'd be home at 6, it's like 8, I'm so in trouble. And you walk in through the door, and all your heart is yearning for is that your husband just says, don't worry about it, I know you needed a girl's day, it's cool. Right? Or the guy comes home, he's like, I'm so in trouble, I promised I would clean up the bathroom before I left, and it's a mess. And all your heart is yearning for is, oh Allah, I don't ask for much. But oh Allah, if she's sleeping still, Ya Allah, I will fast for 4 straight months. You know, like you're just making nothing on top of nothing, you know, like, and you're just yearning for forgiveness, and then you walk in the door and she's like, don't worry about it, I know you had a meeting this morning and you were running late, don't worry, I took care of it. That feeling of forgiveness, remember what that feels like. Because the minute that you have the power, quote unquote, right, and authority, quote unquote, to deliver consequence, quote unquote, on your spouse, these are all like really relative terms, okay? When they messed up, you have to remember how deeply you were begging for forgiveness on the way home. Or how deeply you woke up yearning for Allah to allow your relationship to be mended, and realize that at that moment you have the power to break or to make your marriage. And it literally could be something as small as, don't trip, don't worry about it, it's all good, right? Sometimes, and this becomes difficult with the nafs just wanting to run amok, just gets inflated, just wants to do whatever it wants, never wants to be in a position of being lower. Don't forgive, why? Because it's your right. Right? It's your right. They told you they'd do it. They didn't do it. Yell at them. Make them feel bad. What's the benefit? What's the benefit that's going to be accomplished through this? Right? We're talking about most normative cases. Of course, if there's some extenuating cases, some exceptional cases, then that obviously requires some arbitration, some counseling, etc. That's why we have professionals and imams, etc. But most cases, a little bit of forgiveness goes a long way. The last thing I'll add to her text message is you have to learn to say sorry. Everyone say sorry. Sorry. There's a few of us and it was like tough. Like, well, what am I saying sorry for? I'm not the kind of guy that signs a contract before I know what I'm buying, right? Like, that we treat apologies as if it's like a binding agreement. If I say sorry, I'm officially committed to saying sorry, and I don't know. Like, I was just speaking to a brother who was talking about his marriage, and he said, you know, and he sort of came up to me, he's like, I know that I'm wrong, but, and I said, look, can I tell you something? Ali radiallahu anhu, karamallahu wajh, Ali said that, ma halaka imru'un, he said that a person has never been destroyed for apologizing. They've never been destroyed for saying sorry, basically, for repenting. Never have they been destroyed. Like, and we can make that more modern by saying sorry has never made a situation worse. Unless you say it in the way that we usually say it. I'm sorry. Then that's gonna make the situation pretty bad, right? But when you genuinely apologize, genuinely, like meaning like you genuinely are like, I'm really sorry. I know that I hurt you. I know that I messed up your schedule. I know that I did this. I know that I did that. Best case scenario, inshallah, is that it improves. It can shorten the length of time of the argument. Worst case scenario, it just kind of keeps things steady. But I've never seen the person be like, how dare you apologize to me? It just doesn't work. Or like, why would you say that right now? Okay? So healing requires a person, number one, to be committed to it, to be on the same page about the purpose and mission of this relationship. It requires a person to have empathy, and it requires a person to be able to remember that in all scenarios going forward, you guys have to make it work, right? When I married my wife, on the first day we got married, I said to her, look, I don't believe in divorce. So we're gonna make it work. And she was like, wait. And I was like, we're never getting divorced. Inshallah. I was like, we're just never getting divorced. Because when you have that as your like first option for everything, it's the first thing you think about in every given scenario. If you know that you have a side exit, right? I'm just gonna leave. Then guess what? Someone does something small, I'm just gonna leave, right? You make yourself committed to this, and inshallah it'll work through it. And realize that it is part of the human condition to get hurt, but it's also part of the human condition to heal and to forgive. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people who are healing and forgiving. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us people who have great marriages. For those of you who are married, we ask Allah to bless your marriage. For those of you who want kids, we ask Allah to give you children that are healthy and happy. For those of you who are not married, we ask Allah to give you a beautiful marriage. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan, everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Farjana, Ustad AbdelRahman.